I'm Steve Wasak. Today we're here to talk about aligning an organization post-merger and acquisition. This is my first time doing a video conference. This is kind of fun. It's sort of like the ultimate selfie, right? In any case, we're going to be talking about mostly about alignment and organizational alignment. It's something I enjoy and I have a passion about. And what's more important is what I'm going to talk through. We're going to go up through, and you'll see a roadmap. But what's more important is, other than the check the box activities that'll happen, is figuring out ways to get people to communicate. In a normal organization, it's tough enough. When you're after a merger or an acquisition, it's even a little tougher now because you have people coming from different directions, different backgrounds, different cultures. So it's really important to get those folks talking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with a quick introduction on a roadmap to alignment. I'm going to talk through 3 exercises. Then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about why the roadmap's important and some things I've learned using a roadmap, and get an idea of how can you tell that things are in a good place relative to your alignment. So if you're all ready, let's go. Okay, so here's our title screen here. And my contact information is there. I'll also put it at the end of the presentation on the last slide if you'd like that. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, we're going to look at an alignment roadmap. We're going to do 3 exercises to uncover fundamental conflicts and how to address them. This is where you get people talking and understanding how they think and what's in their head. I'm going to share some lessons learned using the alignment roadmap, and then we'll check out how do you know you're in a good place. Before we get to the meat and potatoes of this, what I would like to do is talk about those 3 blocks in the upper left-hand corner of each slide that you're going to see. If you didn't notice them, great. Now you're going to notice them. They're just going to stick out like sore thumbs. But basically, when I'm going to start talking about alignment with somebody or anything in an organization, I start my message with this exercise here. This isn't one of the 3. This is a freebie. But this exercise here sort of helps people keep a very clear perspective. It's sort of a way for folks to come back to one fundamental that everybody can agree on. So I talk about these as being the 3 states of competitive advantage for a business. And so you have the first one, which is gaining a competitive advantage. You have the second one, which is obviously losing a competitive advantage. Then you have the third one, which is, if you say it, I'm not going to be able to hear you, but I'm going to assume you're saying it. Oob. Yes. Yeah. Now, in a live setting, I get to hear the huh in a room when I say oob. But oob is out of business. And it's really important that everybody in the organization understand that at any given moment in time, you're either gaining a competitive advantage, losing a competitive advantage, or you're out of business. There is no such thing as staying the same. So if you start with something like this, a lot of conversations can start with, right now, are we gaining or losing a competitive advantage? If we're doing something we think we're losing, we can talk about that in terms of this very basic foundation that now everybody has, this foundational understanding. And the key thing here is that there's no such thing as staying the same. And once you get that, once people really start grasping that, then change gets a little easier, not only to implement change, but you're going to get ideas for change. Okay, so that was the freebie. So I'm going to look at some definitions for alignment. And one definition is, let's just say, an understanding and agreement of where you're going, how you're going to get there, expected behaviors along the way, and what's important. Sounds really boring, doesn't it? Yeah. I call this the check the box definition. This is the one where, yeah, I'm going to go and do this alignment stuff because I've got these things I have to have. I've got to have a vision. I got to have a mission. I have to have business processes. I have to have communication tools. Check, 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 check. That's the definition for the checkbox approach to alignment. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 words, understanding and agreement, I'm going to change them to organization-wide belief in, commitment to, and passion for. Now it reads a little differently. An organization-wide belief in, commitment to, and passion for where you are going, how you're going to get there, expected behaviors along the way, and what's important. A little less boring, right? Yeah, I call this the competitive definition. This is more where when you're sharing this definition with folks, they're looking at organization-wide, everybody. We're going to believe in this. We're going to commit to this, and we're going to find our passion in this. So before I get into the 3 exercises, I'm going to talk about an alignment roadmap and elements that I found useful to be in that roadmap. So I always like to start with just 5 high-level areas that we're going to want to make sure we're aligned and we understand what's going on in each area. Strategy, process, allocation, feedback mechanisms, and communication. And what I also like to put together, and this is a sort of an interesting exercise for your team to go through to put together, is an alignment baseline study, which is based on your roadmap. What's important for you to understand is I'm going to give you an example of a roadmap. It's somewhat linear. Yours doesn't have to have the same elements. It could have elements you find are important to your organization. It could be a wheel. It could be a star. It could be whatever you want it to be. The key is to have one, okay? But I'm going to walk through one that I use as an example. So when you have this focus on where you're going, how you're going to get there, behaviors expected, and what's important, this baseline, this alignment baseline study, or ABS, is going to help you identify areas where you need to shore things up or areas that you might need to change to stay competitive. And if you look at that arrow that goes from the ABS at the end back to strategy, this is an iterative process. In other words, when you go through this, remember, nothing stays the same. This is where as you're looking at your competitive advantage and whether you're gaining overall or losing overall, if you start to feel the trend in gaining dropping off, or you even start to feel that you're losing competitive advantage on a regular basis, on a regular basis, what you want to do is you want to come back to this roadmap that you're going to make, go through it and say, what, sort of use your start, stop, continue exercise. What are the things on here that we want to continue doing? What are things on here we need to start doing? What are the things we want to stop doing? Or what are the things, in general that we need to change the way we're doing it? Now, for each one of those high level ones, you come up with some other, the sub elements for that help keep activities focused on what needs to get done. And if you look through this is pretty basic stuff. For strategy, you've got your vision, mission, values. You're going to have a business plan. You're going to have a measurement matrix, which I'll talk about after it's one of the exercises, which is really cool. You want to do your business process maps. You want to come up with the tools everybody's going to be using, reports. And then if you look down each column here, you can sort of see that these are pretty basic umbrellas that most everything that we do fall under. But because they're most everything we do want to make sure that we're all approaching them the same way and approaching them with the same goals in mind. So there are 3 exercises I'm going to cover today. One is the what do we do exercise. The second is the rewrite the vision, mission, and values in your own words. And the third is the measurement matrix. And when you'll notice as we're going through these is that it gets people talking, and these conflicts, and I call them fundamental conflicts, just come up to the surface and you get to talk about them. And it's not like you're going to make them all go away. Chances are some of them are going to hang around for quite a while, but they're out in the open and you can talk about them. So let's start with the first one. What do we do? Let me also say here that one of the things we do with all of these exercises is they're typically delivered as homework assignments, and they're followed by an open group and discussion. So here's the homework assignment. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to, just read through the homework assignment. But what's really cool with all of these homework assignments, it's always amazed at the variety you get in responses. You think you know what you're going to get, you will be surprised every time. So anyway, here's a homework assignment. To get the ball rolling on the business process mapping or review, if you already have it, I need your input. Please provide your response to the below request. This should be quick. Concisely describe what we do as a company in 2 to 3 bullet points. There are simple rules. Each point cannot have greater than 3 words, and there can be no less than 2 and no more than 3 bullet points. Simple rules. There are no right or wrong answers. This is to help to create the framework for our business process mapping and or review. Okay, so I would typically send that out in an email. There are other platforms you can, that you can create to do the same thing, but email works great. And it sort of forces you, rather than have something that's going to automatically put all the information and organize it, you being a facilitator, it helps you have to go through all the responses with touching them, not just reading them on something that's automatically putting them together for you. So that's my personal opinion. I like that. So what you notice on here is that I said, I need your input. One of the most important things in all these exercises that you're going to be looking for input from people and wanting them to interact is to make it personal. You're going to want them to do it for you, because chances are they're going to do it for you with a little more thought than if they were doing it for the company. So what you don't want it to do is, this helps it keep from coming across as a company check the box exercise, which you don't want. And you want people to put energy and thought into it, and this helps if you keep it personal. So the follow-up activities to this, now I've got these 2 to 3 bullets of no more than 3 words. You put them all together, you shared all the responses with everybody anonymously. You just send out all the responses, but you group them in the 3s that you got them in. So the 2 to 3 bullets, you keep them grouped that, you just don't tell people who wrote them. And then what you do is you have the second wave of homework, is you have them select 3 responses that were not theirs to describe what we do. Think about that. They've already given their 3 responses about what we do. Now they're looking at everybody else's and saying, wow, what 3 responses do I want to pick to describe what we do that aren't mine? Now, if you put a lot of thought and effort into yours, this gets pretty hard. But you also now get to read through what everybody else was thinking. Now, you don't know who they were, but you get to see what the general organizational thought inventory is around what we do. Then you basically bring everybody, you get that feedback from everybody, you bring everybody together, and you start having an open dialogue around a Pareto of the selected lines. So basically now you're going to take the responses they got, of the ones they picked that weren't theirs, and you're going to create a Pareto of from high to low and start talking about them. And what comes out of this, and typically you can do it in one sitting, it might take 2, but typically you can do it in one, is an agreement that everybody will agree on 3 of the responses that describe what our organization does. And then you take that and you say, yeah, so these are our core processes. If these are the 3 things we do, these are the 3 core processes we have that all other processes should support. And you keep the dialogue going that way. And a lot of light bulbs go on, a lot of great discussion goes on. And again, everybody's sharing their ideas about where they think the company is, where it's going, what it does. And you start hearing also what they want and what they're passionate about in the company. Sparks some very good conversation. So here, one of the things that you also want to do throughout these exercises, whether it's just in your current organization or there's a merger and acquisition, is you want to communicate unity. And it's most important when you're looking at a merger or an acquisition where you're bringing in new people, or now we have new teams coming in. It might be people now working together that weren't, or people that need to count on each other, that and they have different viewpoints of what's important, what's not important. But if you communicate unity through all these exercises and you talk about the we and the our, this really helps in keeping the conversation productive. And when you're doing this, you personally really have to believe it when you're doing the exercise, because if you come across like you're faking it, doesn't matter. You have to be sincere. So think about it not in forcing a we or an our, but in communicating unity. Okay, moving on. So the next exercise is vision, mission, values. This is another fun exercise. I'm going to read through the homework assignment, but it's really cool because if you think about the vision, mission, values, you may have thought about it once and never again in your business. You may or may not know what they are or have ever seen them. And if you've seen them, you probably can't remember them. You probably know I think they're somewhere on the website. They're hanging on the wall someplace. They're someplace. I know where to go get them. I don't know exactly what they say, but I read them. And so in this homework assignment, everybody's forced to look at what they are for the mother organization here, and share how they would interpret them. So here's the homework assignment. Organizational alignment is about focus. It sets the foundation for 1, scalability, 2, smart, profitable growth, and 3, continuously improving competitive advantage. It all starts with the vision, mission, and core values. So let's make sure we all have a common and clear understanding of these. So below are the vision, mission, and core values for our organization. Please rewrite each of them in your own words. And I'm hoping for a free expression of how you interpret our vision, mission, and values. So again, a simple rule. Don't say it's fine as it is, even though it might be. Take the time to think about it and rewrite it like you're communicating to a group of your family and friends that don't know anything about your business. And if you really want to put some spice on it, figure out how you would communicate to them and get them really excited about it. Okay? So that's the homework assignment. And again, when you take a look at this, there are things in here that I'm working on keeping it personal, and I'm making sure I'm communicating unity. So once you get all of those, you're going to, again, consolidate them and share all those responses anonymously. Then again, you'll have a group dialogue around the responses. And there are typically enough differences to spark conversation. And when I say typically, I'm certain I can say always and always would hold. But there's always typically enough differences to spark conversation. And when I'm having the group dialogue around the responses, what I like to do is put them all in a list, like a list of all the vision, a list of all the mission responses, a list of all the values responses by value. And it's not about reading them all at that point. It's about getting a visual of how everybody read the same thing and came up with responses that were different enough to be 1 line, 2 lines, 6 lines. I mean, just to see that visual difference gets people to go, huh, wow. I mean, and of course, everybody's looking for theirs in the list, where it is and how it compares to the other ones. But that I like putting that visual up just again to show the differences. And a lot of times for each, as I alternate them, I might change colors in them just so they pop on the screen. But that visual has a lot of impact and creates some oohs and ahs and helps with subsequent conversation when you're talking about how people are talking, how people see things differently. Because it is important for everybody to witness that everyone may interpret the same words differently, and that differences, we need to embrace them and open them up and talk about them and understand them, because that'll help with conversation and alignment. And alignment to be more competitive versus alignment to check a box. Once you're going through this, you determine if some wordsmithing is required. If you think so, you establish a small team you get the input to do the wordsmithing, and you come up with some changes to present to leadership. And it's really fun when you look at how people would rewrite what was there after a discussion. I've seen everything where it goes from a lot of words to a little words, and from a little words to a lot of words. So be prepared for anything, but the important thing here is that a group of people are talking about it and getting on the same page, maybe not agreeing to everything, but all talking about the same thing and aligned on understanding vision, mission, values. This is a fun one. This is one that you might want to reach out and chat a little more about how it works, because it's simple, but in introducing it could get a little confusing. Address the fundamental conflicts. Well, I always think it's simple, and something these exercises all do: bring them out in the open. So that's the intent of these exercises, is one, to get them out in the open. If they're out in the open, everyone knows they exist. They're not going to go away. I mean, some might, once people realize and they can reflect, say, oh, okay. But a lot of them aren't, because you're going to come up with some fundamental conflicts, and they're just going to be there, and you're going to have to work with them. And if you know they exist, your communication can be more productive when you're either addressing them or communication in general, just working day to day. So getting back to using the roadmap, I do these as we're going through the roadmap. I'm typically doing these exercises, and some of these exercises you can tell are like the what does our business do, what do we do, and the vision, mission, values exercise. I like to do those up front, but some of these other exercises I have, and the measurement matrix is one, I'll do as I'm going through the alignment roadmap with folks, looking at what are the tangibles they need to come out with, and have them talk through what's important and what they should look like. And when you go through the roadmap, you will wind up with some tangibles, and there will be some results. There are things when you're going through that roadmap where you will be checking the box. You'll say, I've got my project management system. I've got my feedback mechanisms for customer feedback. You're checking boxes. But what's important as a facilitator to understand, and even to let the people know that are going through the process to understand, is that checking the box for those things, yeah, that's good, but that's not important. It's the journey. It's the journey versus the result that's important. If you're just about checking the box, you're not going to get anything. If you have a lot of conversation about what went into creating the item to check the box, to make sure it was the best it can be so your organization can be most competitive, then the journey paid off, and that result will also be better. The other thing is you need to iterate. Remember OOB, at a business, there's no such thing as staying the same. The iteration portion of this is sort of helps you not stay the same, not get in the rut. So you sort of should put that iteration can come out two ways. One, you put it on some sort of schedule that makes sense for your company, where maybe it's annually, you go and you look at everything you did and you say, yeah, no, we should tweak this, or you know what, we did tweak this, or you have some conversation around it. The other time might be when something does occur and your competitive advantage is put at risk or is threatened. Then you might want to say, let's go through our roadmap and figure out what we need to change, what we need to add to it, what we need to take out, what do we need to change to get that edge back since something's changed. The other thing is alignment relates. I keep talking about competitive advantage. It relates directly to competitive advantage. The better that roadmap is, and the more people talk through things, and the more they experience the journey versus focusing on the result, the more competitive your organization is going to be automatically. Doesn't matter what you do; it's just going to happen. And then the other one, then you have here, it's much more than a check the box activity. I mentioned this in the beginning. It's really important that when you're going through any of these exercises or the alignment activities for the organization, whether it's just your organization, or you just bought somebody and you're bringing them in, or you just did an acquisition, whether or not they will be working directly with you or even staying separate, you have to talk about alignment, and you have to do it in a way where it's critical to competitive advantage. It's not just something we're going to do to check a box. Very important. And finally, it's about the journey versus the result. Just going to say it again. It's where you start and where you end. And so the biggest wins we're going to get out of this this journey in aligning our new organization, or aligning our new organization or our current organization into something new, are going to be improved communication, an improved sense of team, and most importantly, an improved sense of common purpose. I mean, if everybody's talking about this, you're going to come up, when you have that vision, mission, values one, those are words that maybe have been overused, but they're really important. And maybe you change them. Maybe you have put purpose in there someplace. But having that common sense of purpose that comes out of this also helps with the communication and helps things happen faster, helps change happen more effectively and faster. So again, about the journey, it's more about the journey than the result. So how do you know you're aligned and in a good place? We gave you a few exercises to go through, and you'll see some pretty cool wins on those. Talked about a roadmap, and again, shape one up to what works for you. I'd be happy to share the one I have, at least to give you a start at something if you don't have something already. But one of the ways you know that you're aligned is that good things just happen all the time. I mean, how many of you are in places where if you want to say what happens all the time, it's a fire drill all the time, it's a firefight all the time, there's always something that we got to react to. Well, when that scale starts changing, where the firefighting goes down and the good things happening go up, that's when you know your alignment's getting better. Your organization can quickly pivot and evolve to meet ever-changing needs. I'm a big fan of speed for anything. And in an organization, you got to be able to move quick. I mean, competition, a key ingredient being competitive is speed. So another way is every day you're gaining more competitive advantage than you're losing. That is probably one of the most, again, going back to the 3 blocks up in the corner of the screen, if everybody understands that at any given moment in time, you're either gaining, losing competitive advantage, and if you're not doing one of those things, you're out of business. You're not here today. You could have better conversations to get you to an endpoint and a goal faster. Because with all these other exercises, again, you're getting more and more aligned. Your communication's getting better, but you can always bring it back to the most fundamental thing. Are we gaining a competitive advantage right now, or are we losing it? And if we're not gaining it as much as we were before, we're starting to lose it. Why? And then when we know that, we can come back and we can use our new ability to quickly pivot and evolve to change to get back to gaining, or at least gaining at a rate that we need to gain or want to gain. And when we're, as long as we're doing that, that's when your good things just happen all the time. So that was my presentation for today. It's been interesting doing a video recording of it to share with you. I hope it came across okay, and I'm going to put a screen up now that is my thank you screen and my contact information. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about anything I spoke about, or to have a conversation to expand on any of the topics that I touched on here today. In any case, I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you very much for attending. I really appreciate it.